friends. Welcome to Sky House Herbs podcast. I'm Ashley Ellenboss, a clinical herbalist, and in this space, I share my knowledge and experience with plant medicine to help you on your own journey of healing and transformation. Join me in exploring the ancient wisdom of plant spirit medicine and how it can be used to heal the body, mind, and spirit. We'll talk to experts in the field and share stories from people who've been transformed by powerful plant allies. New episodes are released each Monday, so please subscribe. And now, let's explore this mystical world of plant medicine together. Hey everyone, I am outside about to walk down to my garden. I wanted to give you a full tour of the garden and talk about some of my favorite medicinal plants that you can use for yourself or family. Really easy to grow, and I'll give you some tips for growing them as well. So let us go. Let's take a walk down the path and make our way to the garden. I do have some herbs that are growing medicinally right along the side here. This one is lady's mantle. It's really quite beautiful and has these little kind of yellowish flowers that come up and these deeply lobed leaves. I just love this plant. It's so pretty. And here's another one over here. And lady's mantle can be used for the skin. It's very astringent, so it's a really nice one for making a toner for your skin out of. It can also be used for excessive bleeding, especially excessive menstrual bleeding. It's been traditionally used for that with cramping and just general women's issues. If you're a woman that tends to run damp, then you might want to consider adding lady's mantle as a tea, using the leaves, or using it topically on your skin. All right, let's keep going. We're going to pass some Minarda Fistulosa, and you can see it's actually, these are about to bud. Isn't that sweet? So the little flowers are in there just forming. It's not quite time yet, but they will bud very soon. Here are my peonies, and they've already flowered. So after they flower, they form these really cool looking buds, or seeds really. And then they just kind of fall to the ground. They don't really self-seed. Here's our upper beds. This is really more cutting flowers, except for hello, nettles. Here's some nettles who had kind of snuck their way into the garden, but I didn't have the heart to tell them they couldn't stay, so I let them stay. And there they are. So I harvest nettles usually in the early spring. These ones could be harvested. Here are some more. And they're really highly nutritious, high in all sorts of vitamins and minerals. You can see they've got these stinging, prickly hairs on them, which will sting your skin. It's a traditional remedy for arthritis, for what they call bad blood, or kind of just stagnant, slow blood. Like if you've been kind of sitting around all winter without much movement, nettles is a great spring tonic to get your blood moving, adding lots of nutrients, and also really good for the kidneys. I'm gonna keep going. Whoa. Here's my basil. I think every garden should have basil. I'm come from a Sicilian family, so I use basil in my cooking. It's a really nice one for just adding. I like to add it into fresh salads. I mix it up with some olive oil, balsamic vinegar, a fresh clove of garlic, and then dried oregano, thyme, salt, and pepper. And that makes, my daughter, she's like, you make the best salads. I'm like, it's so simple. But fresh basil is a part of that recipe. And then here we have some tomatoes. And actually these two plants really like to grow near each other, tomatoes and basil. The basil oils help to keep the bugs off of your tomatoes. So that's always a bonus. Gonna keep going. Here's our trellis with some nice clematis flowers growing over them. I have some other herbs. Here's oregano and cilantro, which is in full flower. I just let it go this year. I was like, you know what, friend, you just go for it. I'm not gonna trim you back. And I've used the leaves a few times. And then I've got some zinnias, which I think are really pretty. And oh, look at that, cute. I don't know if you probably know this, but my grandmother used to do this when we were kids. She always has grown snapdragons, and you can squeeze their little cheeks and they can go say hello. So let's get that. grass out of the way. Hello. Wah, wah. Let's try another one. Hello. Oh, I get a kick out of that. Here's a sunflower volunteer. The sunflower seeds from last year went down into that crack. And so it came up. There's actually a few sunflowers along the side there, you can see. And I just didn't pick them. I was like, you know what, friends, you can stay there. No problem. And then just some verbena. And then I always like to plant marigolds in all of my beds to keep bugs away. And they're just such a bright pop of color. We can go down here now. And here's Joe Pie weed, growing nice and tall. Eupatorium, good for the kidneys and gravel in the kidneys. Here's my like biggest bunch of Minarda Fistulosa, or bee balm, also called wild oregano. And these ones are doing really well. I have, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 plants. I'm hoping they take over this whole hillside. That's my goal. And we've got a little fire pit over here where we like to just hang out in the evenings when it's not too buggy. But the nice thing about the bee balm is that they're also insect repellents. They have a lot of volatile oils, but they haven't flowered yet. So I picked maybe half of them, not half of them, maybe like 10 stalks of them from here earlier this morning. And I just want to show you with this bee balm. Bee balm naturally has this like a mold on it, and it's a powder mold, and it's not actually bad for the plant. So it looks like the plant is sick, but it actually doesn't really hurt the plant or bother the plant. It grows in a symbiotic relationship, and it won't actually spread to other plants either. So that's kind of neat. And in the Doctrine of Signatures, that is a sign that it's good for fungal infections. And I use this one a lot for candida or athlete's foot and fungus that grows on human bodies, because plant bodies and human bodies are actually more similar than they are not. All right, friends, let's keep going. I'm gonna go up to go down. And I have all of these bull thistles I've been battling all spring long. There's our neighbor's house. But you can see all the prickles. Gosh, they just take over. And I know that some people like to use bull thistle for things, and I just like to pull them. You know why? I'll tell you why I don't like bull thistle. And I'll show you one. Let me just show you one close up. So this is bull thistle. Whoa. Come here, camera. This guy here with all the spikies on it. What's going on? All right, here we go. So, hello. Where are you? So there's a bull thistle right there. They just look like prickly weeds. And I don't like them because they attract spiders to their roots, and they attract wasps to their flowers. And, you know, I pay attention to that stuff. Like, to me, when there's like a lot of like kind of like dark energy, or I don't know, like spiders and hornets, I'm like, you know, I like the plants that attract like butterflies and fat worms. Like, I don't know, that's just more my style. All right. So this is the garden that I have been visioning and dreaming for decades. I've had so many different gardens and apartments and homes we've rented and lived in. But this is like what I always wanted it to be, which was a rounded kind of English apothecary style garden. This is one of my, just a favorite plant because it has so many uses. It's so beautiful. It's got these really feathery leaves and these beautiful, beautiful white flowers. And Yaro is a plant that I like to use for wounds. It's really good for as a styptic. It will stop bleeding. It's antiseptic, so it's really nice to keep wounds from getting infected. And it kind of stitches them up. And even the leaves kind of look like stitches, don't they? They look kind of like something that's been stitched up. And another use that Matthew Wood talks about it is it aerates the blood, and it's got a lot of space between the leaves, and it looks a lot like veins. So it's really good as a venous tonic and to help circulate blood in the body and aerate the blood as well. So it can be taken internally as a tea to move blood. You know, if you're pregnant, don't take it because you don't want to move too much blood in pregnancy. But if you tend towards blood stagnation, oh, here's a nice breeze, then you can really use yarrow. And for yarrow, it's all of the above ground parts. So you can use the leaves as a medicine. The stems are used to make I Ching sticks, and the flowers are used. Now these ones are not opened yet, so I wouldn't use those. I like to harvest the flowers when they're fully opened, like this. Next, we are looking at motherwort here with these tall stems, these kind of chicken foot. When I teach kids about herbs, I teach them how to identify this plant. I call it chicken foot, and then they call it chicken foot, or not motherwort, but hopefully they'll remember both of its names. But I think that's a good identifying feature, are these sort of like three-pronged feet, like duck or chicken feet. And then they have these tall stems with these little purple flowers. And motherwort is really easy to grow. I actually transplanted this one from the deep woods in the backyard, and just put it here in the garden. And it has super bitter leaves. It's in the mint family. It doesn't taste very minty. It tastes very bitter. And it's a really great remedy for the nervous system and for the heart. So I think about motherwort for people that have heart palpitations, nervous excitement that tends to be in their chest. Like, you know, if you ask someone, when you get really nervous, where does it go? And some people say their stomach, some people say their jaw, some people say their chest. And so if you get nerves in your chest and you get like butterflies in your chest or tightness in your chest, motherwort might be a really nice remedy. And it's the aerial parts that are used, so you can use the leaves and the flowers and even the stem. It's very bitter, so I typically don't use it as a tea for clients. I usually end up using it as a tincture, but you don't need much, just like maybe 5 to 7 drops a day, and it does wonders. It's also really good. You can see there's a signature for the spine because the flowers, the way they line up, look like the vertebrae. So I've used it before for helping people stand up tall, stand upright, feel confident in themselves. Maybe if they didn't have a mother who really supported them, hence the name motherwort, it can be really good for kind of giving you that confidence and that uprightness and spinal strength to stand up. Here is chamomile, and our chamomile has done so well this year. It's just really thrived, and I think part of it is that I stomped on it in the early spring in a video I did with Herb Rally, Mason, Hutchinson, and Amanda. I stomped on it when they were just coming up, and I really think it makes the roots deeper and it makes the plant and the stem stronger so they can really flower. I've already cleared this patch maybe 4 or 5 times, and it's just still going strong. And chamomile is a wonderful nervine. I love to use the flowers as a tea for my kids to help them with sleep, with stomach upset, with nervousness. It's also a really good anti-inflammatory for the eyes. So if you have like dryness, redness, allergies of your eyes, brew a tea and then put that tea in the refrigerator and then use a cold compress and use that over the eyes. And in the Doctrine of Signatures, it kind of looks like an eye with a daisy shape. So it works really, really well to soothe inflammation and itchiness in the eyes. Moving along, here is my bed. This one, you know, I think in every garden there's a few spaces where you're like, meh, it's okay, it didn't really work out. But I've got some sage and rosemary, more oregano. The echinacea came back from last year, so she's gonna flower probably in the next maybe few weeks. And then I've got a nice, interesting arrangement here of 2 different things. Let's see if I can get it into focus. There's 2 plants that have like come together as one in in this little patch. So here we have agrimony. Whoa, that was a good zoom in. Let's see, how did I do that? Let's zoom out. Can we zoom out? Well, maybe I'll start with this one then. So this yellow flower is greater celandine, which is a wonderful herb for the liver. It has this sort of white sap that is really good for helping with pain, but it's also just a really strong liver cholagogue. So it really moves bile through the gallbladder and into the digestive system. So that's greater celandine. And then the plant that I didn't even plant the greater celandine. I think it just sort of came in. But the one that I did plant, I was trying to show you first, is this one here. Let's see if it'll let me zoom out a little bit. Woo. There we go. This one is agrimony. And I talked about this in my last plant tour. It has these really interesting arrangement of these very jagged leaves. It has two big ones, and then it has two little ones. If you can see, let me just zoom in. You can see it has like two big, and then two little, and then two big, and then two little. See there. So this very, very specific pattern. And agrimony is also a great plant for tension, and specifically for tension in the neck and shoulders. It's really good for kids who wet their bed is another, because it's a kidney remedy and can help kind of build resilience in the kidneys and in the bladder. And agrimony is also asshole repellent, and so it's a really nice one if you have someone who's a bully, or you're trying to like get someone out of your life who's kind of taking over or being too dominant. You can spread the dried leaves around an area that you work in, or I've used it as a spray, and it really does work. I tell some stories in my last garden video that you can listen to if you want to hear more. But those are these two plants kind of all cuddled up together in a nice little pod. Over here I've got my vegetables, and here's some broccoli that's growing. We don't have any actual broccoli yet, just the leaves. Some dinosaur kale, which we love to eat, and then a bunch of salad greens, yum. And hollyhock is over here with these little bulbs, so that those are gonna flower. And I really want to make hollyhock dolls. You can make these really cute little dolls with the flowers. And then on this side, it is borage. I want to take a minute to talk about borage. It's so pretty. My daughter, we were out in the garden today, and she goes, "Mom, it's covered in spider webs." And I said, "No, it's just fuzzy. Like, look, it's super fuzzy. It's just a very hairy plant." And it has these very unique, almost blue colored flowers. In nature, there's not a lot of blue. You know, there's a lot of purples, and this is sort of a bluish purple, and it's star shaped. And borage has traditional uses for courage. It's like a flower essence that's used by a lot because its head is hanging down. It has a sort of downward facing energy, but it's a very strong herb, and it also can be used, you know, people eat it. I have never eaten borage, but you can eat the flowers and put them in salads, which I think would be really, really pretty. They have a mixture of these blue, and then sometimes there'll be like a pink one like this, just like a little pink one that pops in. I like to use this as a flower essence to, again, help with courage. It grows back every year, which is really nice. So some of these plants you have to plant again and again, but borage came back, it reseeded itself really nicely. I think I have maybe 4 or 5 plants now. Here's another borage plant. And then I have the marigolds because there are strawberries in there. But you know what, this year I was like, rabbits, you can have them. And we got to eat 1 strawberry, and that was it. Next, we're coming around to Calamus, which is a really cool plant. It's these tall grasses. It looks like a weed, but it's like a reed grass. I just have 2 of them in the garden this year. The root is the medicinal part used, and it's used for preacher's throat, or like a dry, raspy throat that's irritated from talking for long periods of time. Calamus is also root is used for digestive coldness. If you have a really hard time digesting heavy foods and they just sort of sit there in your stomach, the root is just, it just really gets your digestive juices flowing and makes your mouth salivate. It also is really good as an antispasmodic, so you can use the root for menstrual cramps. I've used it for that before with my clients with good success, and then digestive cramps too from gas and bloating. And then let me just step back so you can see this huge beauty. This is Angelica, Angelica. Angelica is an herb I had always wanted to grow because it's huge, majestic, and just so beautiful. Let's go in for a little bit of a closer look. It's in the Apiaceae family, which is the parsley family, and it has these signature Apiaceae umbelliferate flowers. And just to give you a size of reference, like here's my hand. And look, just so you can see, let me just put it maybe here. So you can see how big these are compared to my hand. Boop. There we go. That's a very large flower. And the part that's used is the root. And there are some lookalikes to this plant, so don't just go out in the wild and harvest it, because it looks a lot like wild hemlock, which is highly toxic and poisonous. So you do want to do some good plant keying out to make sure you've got the right plant. But one of the signatures for this plant is this sort of red, well, it is very reddish purple stem, and it's a great signature for blood stagnation. And sometimes when you see plants with these purplish ribbed stems, it can either be two things: blood poisoning, which means it can kill you, like water hemlock, or it can be that it's actually a really good blood mover, as in the case of Angelica, Angelica. Also, Dong Quai is similar. So that's a really nice plant that is a medicinal. And then we have Valyrian, right? And Valyrian is a wonderful sleep aid. It's the root that's used. And although I love the flowers, I think I take the flowers in and I just put them in vases because they're so pretty. They're like baby's breath. But the root is the medicinal part. Then we've got bee balm, Minarda Fistulosa, which I talk a lot about in other videos. Then here is some evening primrose. Look at these beautiful waxy flowers. And some black cohosh. Doing pretty well. It's really only sun of the day, and then once the sun comes directly overhead, it will go away. And then some verbena hastata, or blue vervain. And I'm going to be doing a talk at the Good Medicine Confluence in July 2024 on this plant. I'm going to spend like almost 2 hours telling you everything I know about this plant, which has been such a cool ally, and I have some really neat stories from myself and clients about blue vervain. So I'm really excited to teach that class and share more about this plant with you. And I'll probably end up doing maybe herb of the month with this plant as well. All right, well, that is all, my friends. I'm gonna head back up to the house now and yeah, get some things ready. I have some herbs I gathered earlier this morning I need to hang dry, but I hope you enjoyed a little tour of my garden, and I'd love to hear your questions. If you have any questions about the herbs I'm growing, if you have any feedback, maybe tips that you've learned from growing herbs, I'd love to hear them. And if you want more from my garden, let me know, and I'm happy to come back out here anytime, really, because it's like my happy place to come out and share more with you about the plants. All right, bye everyone.